On the economy, we'll start with the party trust. For the third straight months, Democrats have a slight edge on which party voters trust on the economy and inflation. With the economy, it's a 2-point edge. 38% trust the D's, 36% trust the R's. A month ago, the Democrats had a 5-point edge. On inflation, both parties are a little bit lower in trust, and the Democrats also have a 2-point edge there. Having said that, I think there's reason to believe this is going to change in the next couple of months. Unless there's a big shock coming out of Iran with gas prices, it seems likely that the Republicans will end up moving back into the lead with a slight advantage on this issue. Now, why do I say that? Two reasons. First, because the improvement for the Democrats taking the edge on this issue over the last 3 months, does not come because people trust Democrats more. It's because they've lost trust in Republicans. So a lot of voters have gone from trusting Republicans to saying, I don't really trust either side. If gas prices go down, if things continue to improve, well, those people are likely to come back home to the Republican side on this trust question. And the other reason has to do with the incredible sensitivity in all of these numbers to the price of gas. A couple of weeks ago, there had been a price spike. There was concern and confidence among voters, economic confidence among voters fell pretty dramatically. 2 weeks ago, just 23% said their finances were getting better, 39% worse. It's a net negative 16. That's Biden era levels of pessimism. Right now, after, we had the memorandum of understanding and some trash talking going on, but things seem to be moving in a positive direction. All of a sudden, voters are back to where they were before. 27% say their finances getting better, 36% worse. Those numbers aren't great for Republicans, but they certainly are better than they were a couple of weeks ago. And any little bit of improvement will help the GOP prospects heading into the midterms. One detail in these numbers, the biggest improvement from 2 weeks ago in terms of economic optimism came among the group that we call Main Street Americans. These are people that do not have a postgraduate degree, do not live in a densely populated urban area, and they earn less than $150,000 a year. These are people who are more likely to be impacted by the price of gas. And obviously, they're part of the Trump base. The better they're feeling about things, the better off we'll be. If you report on this issue, the appropriate benchmark when you talk about gas prices is not a comparison with what they were when Biden was in office. And it's not even a comparison of what they were before the war in Iran. The numbers that matter are, what is the price of gas this week compared to last week? What will it be next week compared to this week? If the price of gas steadily drifts downward between now and Election Day, we are likely to see a fairly steady drift upwards in terms of consumer confidence, and that will restore a little bit of the Republican trust edge on the economy. Okay, on Iran. Well, last week we talked about a big change. There had been an incredible level of pessimism 2 weeks ago. Most voters saying that they thought the war would go on for at least another 6 months, maybe a year or longer. Then we had the announcement, the dramatic announcement, there's going to be a deal. And people began to say, well, yeah, a good decent number began to say, yeah, this could end fairly quickly. There was a real nice burst of optimism. And then, of course, we've had the events of more recent days casting doubts on just how solid all this is. But voters, while their optimism dimmed a little bit, still pretty much it hasn't changed all that much. Right now, 43% of voters say they think the fighting will end very quickly. That's down 4 points from a week ago. 56% say that the deal, when all is said and done, will be good for America. That's almost identical to the numbers from last week. There has been an increase in the number of people saying the deal will be bad. It went from 20% a week ago to 32% now, but still a majority saying, yes, we think this will end up being a good deal. 49% still think that when all is said and done, Iran is going to have to give up that uranium as part of a deal to achieve peace. Now, one other indicator that I think gives a different sense of how people are watching Iran. For the last 3 weeks, the number who say they're following news about that war very closely has been below 30%. Now, that's still a high level of interest compared to most news stories, but it's down significantly from, a month or two ago when it was a dominant issue. And so I think this tells us that people are putting it a little bit on the back burner. They're not sure who's saying what to who and what peace talks, and not quite sure what a deal is going to be, but it doesn't seem as dominant a threat as it did a couple of weeks ago. Finally, summer schedule. As you may know, our nation's 250th birthday is coming up soon. And if you happen to go to the Great American State Fair, you will see our work on display there. The work that we did with Jigsaw and Google to create the We the People project and the Declaration of American Ideals is going to be part of a display that's being called a continuing conversation. What you will see there is a display of the words, some of the 1.6 million words that we collected from the American people today about freedom and equality. And you'll also see some references to Americans going back over the past 250 years and how they talked about it. And there's something really reassuring and uplifting about it in the sense that there's so much continuity, on these core ideals. We don't talk about them enough as a nation. We really should be focusing on them and recognizing, first of all, what an incredible legacy we have been blessed with. And on top of that, just how much the conversation has remained the same. The American people still embrace those founding ideals, even if some of their leaders do not.